Hello students, good morning and namaste. You are most welcome to your online class of physical education. Today again we are going to continue our same chapter about skeleton system. In our last lecture we were discussing about the bones, types of bones. In our last lecture we completed, and today we are going to talk about joints. Our today's topic will be on joints. So today we have to discuss about types of joints. First of all, I have to give you small introduction of joints. What is it? We have to clear the concept of joints first. Actually, in the human body, wherever the ends of two or more than two bones meet, they form a joint. If there will be no joints in the body, then smooth movement is not possible. Even it will be too difficult to move or to do any work up to the marks. Actually, the joint is surrounded by muscles and ligaments that keep it firmly bound, strong and stable. So with the help of these muscles, ligaments, we move easily wherever we want. So as bones are important, same joints are equally important. Now we have to talk about types of joints. Actually, there are two types of joints in our body. Number one is immovable joints and second is movable joints. So first of all, we will discuss about immovable joints. These joints called synarthrosis also. Here the bones are very close contact and separated by a thin layer of fibrous connective tissues. If I have to give you example, then skull is the best example of immovable joints, or we can say synarthrosis joints. Suture in the skull between skull bones are the best example of synarthrosis joints. Our skull bones are firmly attached with each other. They are stitched. Second joint is movable joints. Because of these joints, we move freely in any directions. Here again, it is categorized in two parts. Slightly movable joints and freely movable joints. So first of all, we will talk about slightly movable joints. These joints is called amphioarthrosis also. The ribs that connect to the sternum, vertebral joints, tibia and fibula joint at the base are the best example of amphioarthrosis joints. So sternum, our ribs are connected with the sternum. Here is one straight bone that is called sternum, and all the ribs are connected with it. So when we breathe in or out, then these joints move but little bit. Next is freely movable joints. Next joint is freely movable joints. Most of the joints in adult human body are freely movable joints. And these freely movable joints again categorized in 6 parts. 6 types of freely movable joints are there. Number 1 is gliding joint. Second one is hinge joint. Third one is pivot joint. Fourth is condyloid joints. Fifth one is saddle joint, and last one is ball and socket joint. We will discuss all these 6 types of joints one by one. Number 1 is gliding joints. Gliding joints are flat or slightly flat surface move against each other, allowing sliding or twisting without any circular movement. In this, we can twist only, we can rotate completely. And now we have to come back like this. Twisting is the best example of this gliding joint. So here, with the help of this joint, you can twist your body one direction to another direction only. But at last, you have to come in your original positions. So it is gliding joints. They move against each other. Next is hinge joint. In it, hinge joint allows angular movement in one direction. Example is like a door on its hinge. And in human body, flexion and extension in elbow joint, and as well as flexion and extension in your knee joint are the best example of this hinge joint. Your elbow joint only flex or extends. There are only 2 movements in elbow joints and knee joint, and they are flexion and extension. So they move only in one direction. Next is pivot joint. Pivot joint occurs where a body ring rotates round the pivot or axis or another bone. For example, here is axis. It is your pivot joint. And your body can move like this in any direction. But one part of your body will be on the surface. A good example is the joint between the axis and atlas is in the neck also. You are moving it in any direction. Here, pivot means axis, and axis is what? Axis is an imaginary line around which movement takes place. Especially in basketball, we use this move, pivot, or one foot fix on the floor and other foot can move anywhere with the help of that fixed feet. So that is called pivot. Next is condyloid joints. It is oval shaped and also fits into the elliptical cavity of another. And this occurs between metacarpals and phalanges. Phalanges means fingers. Metacarpals in the palm and phalanges means fingers, and metatarsals in the foot as well as knee, and again phalanges means toes of the feet. This type of joints permits an angular movements in two directions. Next joint name is saddle joints. Saddle joint occurs when the touching surface of two bones have both concave and convex regions. And this joint is only in thumb. Saddle joint. It is only in thumb. Next point is ball and socket joint. Here the ball shaped end of one bone fits into a cup shape. This is your ball, fits into a cup shape socket on the other bone, allowing the widest range of motion for angular movement in all directions. Example, angular movement in all directions. Here is socket in this joint, and part of the bones that is called ball, it is fixed into this socket, so that it is called ball and socket joints. You can movement in any directions. You can rotate your arms, you can stretch your arms in any directions. Hip and shoulder joints are the best example of this ball and socket joints. And shoulder joint is the most freely joint. So you are going to stretch your arms like this. You are going to rotate your arms in any directions, because your ball is fixed in one socket, and here it is free to move in any direction. So these are the freely or movable joints. Again, I am going to discuss it in short. First of all, we have to know about the joints. Joints are what? Actually, it is in human body wherever the ends of two or more than two bones meet, they form a joint. And this joint surrounded by muscles and ligaments that keep it firmly strong, bound and stable. And there are two types of joints. One is immovable joints. These joints are called synarthrosis also. And suture in the skull between skull bones are the best example of immovable joints. And number two types of joints are movable joints. And Again, movable joints are categorized into two parts. Slightly immovable joints, it is called amphiarthrosis also. Here the ribs connect to the sternum. And next is freely movable joints. They are free to move in any direction. And again, 6 types of diarthrosis joints. Number 1 is gliding. They are flat or slightly flat surface, move against each other. And twisting is the best example of this gliding joints. Next is hinge joints. It is like a door on its hinge. Here, flexion and extension is permitted only. Next is pivot joint. This joint occurs where a body ring rotates around the pivot or axis or another bones. Especially in basketball, we use this pivot joint. Next is condyloid joints. It is oval shaped and fits into the elliptical cavity of another. And this type of joint permits angular movements into two directions only. Next is saddle joints. Occurs when the touching surface of two bones have both concave and convex regions. And this joint is only in the thumb. Next is ball and socket joint. Here the ball shaped end of one bone fits into a cup shaped socket on the other bone, allowing the widest range of motion. Example, angular movement in all directions. And here hip and shoulder joint are the best example, and shoulder joint is the most freely joined. So our today's topic on types of joints are completed. In our next lecture, we will come with new topics. So for today, have a nice day and thank you.